Hi, I'm Anthony Mangano, and welcome back to City of Churches, Part 2 at St. James Cathedral, Basilica, the oldest parish in the Diocese of Brooklyn. And we've got so much more to tell you today in our Part 2 of this special episode. We'll discover a hidden passageway right beneath the altar. And we've got a special story of a very special visitor who showed up on a rainy day to bring sunshine. All this and more today on Part 2 of City of Churches at St. James Cathedral, Basilica. Hi, I'm Anthony Mangano, and welcome to this week's special episode of City of Churches. We're making a return visit to St. James Cathedral Basilica on its 190th anniversary. Well, here we are with Monsignor Strynkowski of St. James Cathedral Basilica, and I've got a million questions for him. So here we go. Can you tell us all about the 190th anniversary of St. James?
Well, we started celebrating last year, on January 1st of 2012. Bishop DiMarzio, that was New Year's Day obviously, and Bishop DiMarzio celebrated that Mass for the opening of the 190th year. So it's obviously it's not the 200th year, but 190 is still something of an accomplishment. And so then in the course of last year, we had a lecture on the history of this area.
And so for me to be here is a great honor. I want to thank Monsignor Strynkowski for inviting me to speak at the Mother Church of Brooklyn and the Mother Church of Long Island on the occasion of this 190th anniversary. My hope is that you'll come away with a greater appreciation of both this larger community's history and as well as the local church's cathedral. The window right here refers to the Pope Blessed Pius IX's proclamation of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, which that took place in 1854. The window says Jubilee, definition Jubilee, 1854 to 1904. So that window actually is 108 years old. Wow. Kind of neat.
Very interesting also, of course, the first Cardinal Archbishop of New York, John McCloskey, grew up in this neighborhood. He was born in this area in 1810, so before St. James existed. But he reminisces in one of his sermons about playing in the orchards and fields of the village of Brooklyn.
One can't even think about that when you look outside with all the traffic.
Right. So, but anyway, so we had a lecture. Then we had a concert that actually Joseph Smith put together, a concert that reviewed, you might say, the music of the last 190 years, composers from the last 190 years, and so that kind of representing some of the history as well.
I want to know a little bit about the music ministry here. There was a man by the name of Joseph B. Smith. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, he was music director and organist here for 21 years. Very sadly, very tragically, he died suddenly 2 days after Christmas of 2012.
Joseph B. Smith, the diocesan music director, has passed away.
He spoke in music. He made music come alive, and he was a man of the church.
And he had a wonderful versatility and a wide range of music. He was truly a humble servant of the music, and we do miss him very much. And but he enabled that organ that we have in the church, a wonderful organ, to really, you might say, really play, really sound good, really inspire. He was an inspiring musician. He made the organ an inspiring instrument for our liturgy.
We've got some rare clips of the late Joe Smith, so please take a look.
Holy, holy, holy Lord, God of power, God of might, heaven and earth are full of your glory. Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest.
Were there any other special events here at St. James?
Well, for example, the veneration of the relic of Saint Therese of Lisieux, which drew thousands of people. Veneration of the relic of St. Mary Magdalene, which also drew large numbers. Also, speaking of saints, there was a special Vespers here in honor of three priests who are connected to Brooklyn and who are being considered for sainthood, and that's Bishop Ford, the Maryknoll bishop who was martyred in China, Father Bernard Quinn, who was pastor here, a very renowned pastor, especially for his work on behalf of African Americans, and then Father Felix Varela, who was Cuban, a very prominent priest and in the Diocese of New York, but with roots here in Brooklyn.
Thank you, Monsignor, for answering so many questions. I hope you didn't mind me asking you, but
Not at all.
I wanted you to take me and the viewers on a tour of the whole St. James Cathedral here.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. We're going to go for a little ride here.
We're here in the front of the church, and ahead of us is the baldacchino, which highlights the altar, the centrality of the altar. And on top of the baldacchino, you see the phrase, "In finem delexit eos," he loved them to the very end, which comes from the Gospel according to St. John, the Last Supper account. And when St. John writes that as Jesus is about to celebrate the Last Supper, he loved them. He loved his disciples to the very end, so much so that he washed their feet as a servant would wash the feet of guests to a house. So it's the ultimate gift of himself, the total gift of himself. And of course, that is what we celebrate on the altar. So that's part of the celebration of the Mass.
Can you discuss the sanctuary?
Well, the sanctuary is, of course, as I mentioned, the baldacchino is an ancient form of church decoration, and it provides, you might say, a way of highlighting the altar, because the altar is the center of the celebration of the Eucharist. It is where we offer the bread and wine, and where the priest then, by his narrative, by his narration of Eucharistic prayer, his proclamation of Eucharistic prayer, enables then the bread and wine to become the body and blood of Christ. So, and then that then becomes the communion for the people of God. So the baldacchino highlights the altar.
Monsignor, I have a few questions about the stained glass windows. Can you tell us who made them? Are they from the original building, and do you have a favorite window?
Well, I think that, first of all, the windows were made by Meyer Studios in Munich, Bavaria. And they come from the beginning of the 20th century. In other words, they were part of the new church structure. When the structure was put up in 1903, you'll see the dates on the bottom of the windows as being from 1904, that time then. So they were part of the new structure. However, the windows are rich in terms of depicting saints and mysteries from the life of Christ. The windows are an education, you might say. If you study the windows, you will receive an education in the mysteries of the faith and in the lives of the saints. And there we have Mary with the apostles. She prayed with them because she loved the community, the church that her son had established. And she interceded for the gift of the Holy Spirit upon her son's disciples.
They're all so beautiful. They're so picturesque. If that's it's like art coming to life.
That's
the
right.
way
Exactly.
I look at it.
That's right.
Blessed Mother. I mean, it just I'm looking around. It's fast. That's amazing. That one and that one there. They're just so amazing.
That's the depiction of the Immaculate Conception, which was defined a dogma by Pope Pius IX in 1854. And so this window was put up for the 50th anniversary of that proclamation.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So in a sense, the statues are unnecessary.
Because they're basically in the stained glass window, so you're getting
That's
more
right.
out of the stain. I understand.
My favorite window, unfortunately, is not easy to photograph, because it's the window of the Transfiguration, which is behind what is called the baldacchino. This is the window of the Transfiguration here. Jesus in his glory, surrounded with Moses and Elijah, prophets from the Old Testament. So Jesus is being shown as the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecies. And then he has as witnesses Peter, James, and John. And so, of course, they are, you might say, overcome with emotion and overcome by the glory of Jesus.
It's amazing.
So the colors are spectacular.
That's actually beautiful. I could see why this is your favorite, and I could see the why in the morning when the sun would come through here, it would be illuminating.
Right. And notice the different shades of blues and reds
And maroons.
scarlets,
Yeah, I could see, it's very,
It is. It's absolutely spectacular.
it looks like it's coming to life. And this was done in Munich?
Yes, these windows were done by Meyer Studios in Munich, Germany.
Wow.
So from the beginning of the 20th century, early 1900s.
It's amazing because the artwork today is nothing in comparison to back.
that's-
Back then there was such detail.
Well,
Now
you had the craftsmen to do that type.
I don't want to take anything away from modern art, but this is amazing.
Yeah. But that is my favorite window because it is just spectacular, especially when the sun comes up in the morning from the east. Obviously, that window faces east. It's like being at the Transfiguration.
So I noticed the chair.
Yes, this is the bishop's chair. The word cathedral comes from a Latin word, cathedra, and that Latin word means chair. So this is the chair of the bishop, the throne of the bishop. This is where the Bishop of Brooklyn and Queens presides when he comes here for Eucharistic celebrations and other occasions. Only he can sit there. Do you want to try it?
No, I'm afraid. Somebody said I might get lightning hit me. I don't want that to happen. No thanks. I know I'm with great company, but still, I don't want to get anybody mad at me.
But anyway, that is the, and then he has his assistants with him, deacons usually.
Oh, wow.
So that's where the bishop would preside. So it's the symbol of the bishop as the chief shepherd of the diocese. And you notice then his coat of arms, and he has the inscription, "Behold your mother," because of his devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, and who was always faithful to God's will. And so she's a great example, inspiration for all of us, that we be faithful to God's will.
You could point out and just tell me a few things as we're going along.
Well, there's the pulpit, and the pulpit was made out of materials that were in the old church. The marble was
That's fascinating.
was reused for the purposes of the pulpit.
And then there is the baptismal font, which is there's a magnificent fresco depicting the baptism of Christ in the River Jordan. It's in a Byzantine, what's called a Byzantine style. That is to say, the style of the Greek and Russian churches, and it has a certain starkness to it, but also it's got a great beauty to it.
Something that highlights the importance of baptism and the fact that we are baptized in imitation of Jesus, and he is the one who brings us to himself through baptism.
I have a question for you, because we were walking here. The altar rail was probably around
Yes,
here, right?
probably just right up here, yeah. Some of the marble, for example, from the altar rail, that in the structure that was completed in 1903, some of that marble was used for other purposes in the renovations that took place in the 70s and 80s. So in that sense, there are remnants from before. We have to remember that the first two bishops of Brooklyn, Bishop Laughlin and Bishop McDonald, were originally buried here. And so we still have the marble slab that marks their tombs. Bishop Malloy, the third Bishop of Brooklyn, had their bodies moved out to the seminary, which he had built in Huntington, out on Long Island. We have the mitre that Bishop McDonald used. That's to be found as we go into the cathedral center downstairs. So Bishop McDonald's mitre is on exhibit there. But also, way back, there is, part of the cemetery is still under the church also. So not only is the cemetery outside here in the garden, but also underneath the church, it's a little hard to get to because it's behind the boiler room. There are 3 or 4 graves. When they extended the church in 1903, they built over part of the cemetery, and they left untouched the graves of the people buried there. So there are still some tombstones and some bodies buried there. In a sense, they have a very privileged position because they're basically under the altar, and you can't ask for better than that in terms of being buried someplace.
For those who may not know, I mean, this church was had a very special visitor here in 1979. I know because my wife came here. She brought this up to me with her family. And can you tell us about that?
That was the first visit of Pope John Paul II to the United States. And in the course of that visit, he came by St. James and stopped in front and greeted the people. It was a brief visit. It was a very rainy day, but as the car stopped, suddenly the sun came out, and so everybody cheered, and so it was a, you might say, special moment in the life of St. James that the Pope recognized the cathedral.
We've got some video clips. Watch this.
"190 years. Now that to me is rather awesome, that on this particular spot, right here, for 190 years, Mass has been celebrated, and Catholics have gathered for the celebration of Eucharist, for catechesis, for the other sacraments, for being together as a community. 190 years.
Strength to love till torments fade, till lovers keep no score.
As you know, we're in ordinary time, and that's why we're wearing green vestments. The green has nothing to do with our favoring any particular football team. The Lord be with you. I don't know how many veterans we have here, but I know there's at least one, and that's Hugo de Capraris, a veteran of World War II.
Take my heart and fill it, full of love for thee. All I have I give thee. Give thyself to me.
For those who honored your
We dedicate this church to St. James. We dedicate this church to the Immaculate Conception, our Blessed Mother. May they be our patrons, our saints who guide us on our journey of faith.
We'd like to thank you so much for watching this special episode at St. James Cathedral Basilica on its 190th anniversary. If you have any questions about this episode or any other episode that we've done, or would you like to recommend the church, please log on to www.netnewyork.net or follow us on Facebook or Twitter. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching. God bless. Have a great day.